Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And that is a quote by Margaret Mead. And my guest today is Debbie McFarland. And among other things we're going to talk about photographing tweens. And if you're not sure what that is, well, stay tuned. Before we get started, I'm just excited to have you join me in 2025. Remember that I have almost 300 fabulous episodes with incredible guests and so forth. So be sure to check out other podcasts, and you can find me also on YouTube if you're not. So, anyway, thank you, Debbie, for saying yes to being on the show. Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited, especially to talk about tween empowerment photography because it is a really big passion of mine. So thank you for having me.
I was really jazzed when I don't know how we connected, but when I looked up what you were up to and I saw that tweens was one of your passions, I was like, we have never talked about that. And I've often thought that it's an untapped market. So
Totally.
let me tell you a little about Miss Debbie. She's a mom of six, my gosh, and has been a professional photographer for 27 years. Similar to me, family and weddings. She also has done a lot of senior portraits, which is something uh, at the time I didn't think I would like, and now I realize there's so much creativity and fun with teenagers. Anyway, now she's focused on empowering others, which is why I read that quote to you from Margaret Mead, and creating meaningful connections. She has a flower farm and she runs the art studio and photography business out of there. She does workshops. She helps kids embrace confidence and celebrate their inner beauty. And she's also the founder of Sparks of Kindness, which is a global movement. And I'll ask her about that later. So tell me a little bit about how you got into photography. Like what was your background on that and all that
Well,
good stuff?
from the time I was that I can remember, like being two or three, my I loved doing art, whether it was drawing or painting. And my sister would be outside playing, but I would be inside, drawing and painting and all those kind of things. And as I got older, I went to college and took photography just as an elective. And next thing I knew, I was absolutely obsessed. And before I ever did a single client session, I joined PPA and started traveling all around the country taking classes from anybody and everybody that I could. And that was before I ever and became certified, before I even um, took on real clients. And so I developed my business module from that and absolutely loved it and still do to this day. It's just a real passion of mine. I think I'll do it until I can't anymore.
And that's so smart. When I started, and I've got kind of a similar background, uh, I thought to join you had to already be successful, especially joining the local chapter. And when I realized I could have joined uh, my first year in business rather than my third, and I would have had that shortcut much earlier,
Right. With the
um,
education
a
and help.
head slap. Uh, who was one of your first mentors? I'm just curious because, I've been around 40 years, so we know a lot of the same people, I'm sure.
Gosh, just anybody and everybody that I could just soak up back then. I'm trying to think who was around back then. Now I've been here for so long.
Did you take any classes, week-long classes? Like in California, we have West Coast School.
I took Anne Monteith's business
Yes,
class right off the gate, and that was very helpful because my brain really only thinks on one side, and it's not the math side. So I went
right.
in there kicking and screaming, and I'm sure I caused her, many hairs. She probably was pulling out her hairs over me because I was having a hard time understanding it, but it was important because I think we just all focus on the creative part, and that is just as important or as more important, as well as like the marketing and stuff like that. I've really enjoyed getting to really dive into the marketing part. And sometimes I think I enjoy that even more than the photography part because I come up
Mhm.
with an idea and then I try things and I'm like, well, that didn't work. Let me try it a different way and see what happens. So I do find, so I've grown to love that part too, watch my numbers. And so,
Yeah, cool. I'm going to pause one sec. Okay, we are back. I just had a tiny little thing I needed to take care of. We were talking about the business. I've been surprised at how much, since becoming a coach, how much I love the business side. And I've always loved selling. That's natural
me
for
too.
me. But yeah, so my first teacher was Joyce Wilson, and she's actually having a show in Santa Barbara this week celebrating her 90th birthday. And she's
Oh my goodness, that's
still out
amazing.
there creating, but I
Wow.
modeled a lot of my my business practices. And also I was very humbled the first year that I went to a week-long class with West Coast School because I thought I was doing pretty well. And then I was around, hundreds of photographers and 20 in my class that were just unbelievable. And it's good to be humble sometimes.
It is. My goal is to always be the one in the room who knows the least so that I can learn from everybody else. And you know
Ooh.
what you said about selling? I think as photographers, people get so scared of selling, but my entire business has been built around just becoming their friend, my clients. And
Mhm.
if it was my friend, I would say, oh my gosh, this portrait would look amazing on that one spot, like in your living room. Like this would be incredible. Like, why wouldn't you want to see that every day when you walk by? And it's not really selling. I don't feel like it's selling. It's just fun.
Right, right. My core, when I heard this term, it really resonated. My core in my business, and then I've noticed every place that's selling a luxury product, especially, is doing this, is what I call becoming the trusted advisor. So
Right.
becoming friends, but I've also noticed if I become too much friends, then sometimes it gets messy and they expect freebies and things. So there's
That kind
that
of friend.
professional friends,
Yes.
building a
The
great
trusted advisor.
relation. Yes, yes. So, and I think almost everybody that that is really rocking it will say the same thing. It's about building these relationships where
Right.
then they know that we have their business. I mean, their
Right.
best
We're
interest in
going to take care of them.
mind.
Hmm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And also that we're knowledgeable and that we're going to help them. Because,
Exactly.
yes. So let's dive into tweens. Now, what do you
Mhm.
call a tween?
So a tween is the in between the childhood and the teen years. And it's a very pivotal transformational age. It can be, um, we can help them transform into one direction or the other direction. Either they, have confidence or they don't have confidence. And it's not just us, but I mean, we do have that opportunity to help them. And so that's, I feel like the tween years, that age group has been extremely overlooked. I mean, we even have we call it the awkward stage.
Hmm.
And I think that's so wrong for these poor kids because they're used to being like the really cute kid at the family reunion and
Hmm.
everybody talked to them, and then all of a sudden they get ignored. And so I want to change it from that awkward stage to the awesome stage, not invisible anymore, but invincible, and show them that if they can learn to embrace their uniqueness and that it is their superpower, then that's what makes them incredible, not trying to be like everybody else.
Hmm. Yeah, when I think about that age, so is it like from 12 to 15 or
I would say more like 9 to 12.
okay.
Um, yeah, I would say a little bit younger when they're still open to hearing these things and and believing in what you say.
Right. Before all the hormones kick in and before
Exactly.
the psychological need to get acknowledgement from your peers rather than
Right.
adults,
Yeah, I
getting
hear from
that.
moms all the time. Yeah, I hear from moms all the time that they were these confident girls that, were like, I'm on fire, I'm going to change the world. And then they go off to middle school, and then the mean girl syndrome kicks in. And I think that the reason they're mean is because they don't have any confidence themselves. So they feel like they have to pick on somebody else. But what it does is they just shrink into themselves and they don't speak up. And then they're like, oh, something's wrong with me. And they
Mhm.
just feel like not comfortable in their skin at that time, so I have learned to really, really embrace this stage. It has been a long process because I kind of started with this. I spent the first 40 years of my life disliking myself. Like I hated myself. I thought I was ugly, fat, said stupid things, and it was just the lies I told myself. It was not from anything else. And so I had this epiphany around 40 years old that I was made just like this because I was supposed to be just like this. And it's like a masterpiece, like a painter. I'm a painter, so I could relate. Like a painter paints this beautiful masterpiece, and then they say, I don't want to be like this. I want to be more like that. And so they're constantly looking at how to be somebody else. And so once I had this epiphany, I knew I had to spend the rest of my life helping other people feel their value and their worth. And that's kind of when I started the kindness group. And then I went and got certified on how to teach empowerment workshops. And that was probably, I don't know, 12 to 15 years ago. So my business has evolved over the years. In many, many ways. So that's one of the ways. And it started with the women, and then high school seniors, because I realized that it was just getting younger and younger of people who kind of hated on themselves. Started
Mhm.
with the moms, and they would come for family pictures, and they would say, "Well, don't show me. I don't want to be in the pictures." Or they would say, just we'll put the kid in my lap so we don't see, my stomach or whatever. And so I had developed a division of my studio maybe 15 years ago for ladies, and it was all about finding their own kind of beautiful, whatever that meant to them. After, oh, God bless you.
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
I always have two sneezes when it's allergies.
I totally get that.
Okay.
So we would, it was this whole division for ladies that I developed, and we would talk about the things they hated about themselves, and then we would work on how to get rid of those thoughts, and then we would go into my studio and they would write down things that they liked about themselves, and then we would do portraits, and then it became so transforming for these ladies that it ended up, the Atlanta News picked it up and did several stories on it because it was all about finding their own confidence. And it was so much more than just photos, taking photos. But then I realized that my high school seniors were coming in and they were even worse. They were like, I had this one girl, for example, who this is so crazy to me. She's like, well, I only like this one side of my face, which looked just like the other side of the face to me.
Mhm.
But she's like, so only take pictures on this one side. And then she'd look at me like this, and I'm like, well, you look ridiculous. He's like, can we just take the pictures, So I started incorporating these empowerment workshops in with my senior rep program. So I had a senior rep team, and the girls stayed with me for their whole year. And instead of just taking their pictures and then promoting my business for the year, we also incorporated these empowerment workshops, and they created soul art in my art studio. I would just open my studio even on a Saturday when it wasn't a workshop for them, and they would just come in together. Like they were all from different schools and they didn't know each other. One was Miss Popular at her school, cheerleader, and then the other one, was not popular and didn't have any friends, she said. But they all came together, and it just was so beautiful. And so I did these workshops with them.
Okay,
And
hold on.
then mhm.
I want you to take a breath because you've just given so much great information.
So much
And
excitement.
and yes, so um I can see where this is going with the tweens, I think.
Right.
So I want to make sure that we get, while we've got the time, that this
Get
next
back, gets back to the tweens.
chapter of this great sharing that you're doing is how, with the photography, how you get started in that, and then what you incorporate with the empowerment. So I don't mean to
Right.
sidetrack you, but I know you've got so many great stories and are so inspiring for what you do. So anyway, continue, please.
Yes. So when I saw that I was empowering these high school seniors, I saw their transformation in front of my camera. And they just held themselves differently. And the shy girl all of a sudden was very confident. The popular girl was not so interested in just taking selfies for vanity reasons, but showing like the internal qualities of herself. She wanted that to shine through too. So
Mm.
once I did this with my rep team, I saw it kind of spill out in other ways because it was also changing me as a photographer. So when families would come in with young girls, I noticed that it was like younger and younger and younger girls that were acting this way. Like, well, this little 10-year-old was like, well, I don't want you to show my legs because they're fat. And of course, they're just little bean poles, skinny
Mhm.
little things. And so I thought about it and thought about it. I started about 7 years ago, and I decided to just put it out there in the world and see what happens. So I put out an email, and within 48 hours, I had over 75 moms contact me about
Whoa.
tween empowerment photography, and the stories that
Okay,
they wrote to me because.
hold on,
Mhm.
because I'm also looking for the practical. Um, for how did you have an email list that could, when you put that out there, there were that many people with the tweens?
My email list was a couple thousand at this point because I've been in business, forever. And I also put it on social media that day
Okay,
too.
okay,
I knew it was going to be a can of worms. I didn't know it was going to be that big of a can of worms.
yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
but what I did also in my email and in my social media was I said, perhaps you have a friend who has a girl this age as well. Please forward this because our girls need this. And so I think that's what happened to kind of just spread. People were sharing with their friends, because they, as moms, they probably talked, oh, my daughter's struggling right now, with confidence, or we can't connect because she's in her room and the door shut. So
Mhm.
I think it just kind of took off. And I had told them that they had to contact me within 48 hours. And so it was just insane. But the stories, Lucy, they would break your heart. It was like my 10-year-old is cutting herself. My 9-year-old was so bullied that she rode her bike to school for 3 months. Just story after story about bullying and no confidence. And I was like, okay, I need to do this. And so that's kind of how it all began with the tweens.
Mhm. Um, so for someone who maybe isn't ready to get so, what am I trying to say? Dive into the
Mhm.
empowerment aspect, but understands that using photography in itself can be very empowering. Can you give some tips on how someone would start? Um, it like what, just a little of the like business framework of
Yeah,
the
well,
photography aspect and the promoting and what people purchase from that aspect.
absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, in our society and even in our photography world, that age group has been totally overlooked because people get their baby pictures, then they do toddlers, then they do 5, and then they lose their teeth at 7 and they're cute. And then it's like it jumps to like high school seniors. And that's a huge market that we're just leaving on the table. And I don't know what that implies to these kids either. Like it's not an important age. It's not an awesome age, but an awkward age. It just kind of reinforces all of that negativity. And so we as photographers, we can make a difference by empowering them even by the photography. So they don't have to do when I do my photo experiences, it's it's all photography session related. And
Ah,
so yeah, we can totally empower them in our sessions by our words, in our products. I am product based, but even if you were digitally, if you only saw digitals, you could do this as well. But imagine the impact like of a girl having a beautiful, confident wall portrait in her bedroom. Every time she wakes up in the morning before she goes to school, she's reminded of that moment when she felt confident and strong and beautiful and worthy before she goes out the door to school. Like I had one mom who said she took the mirror out of her daughter's room at that age because she was kind of obsessing like what she looked like and trying to do her hair and crazy. And she's like, she can do that in the bathroom, but in her bedroom, I want her to see how beautiful and confident she is. So we can do it through that way. We can do it through an album with some empowering words. There's lots of different ways. And that's a whole new revenue stream as photographers. Like, for example, during your slow season, I started it in January because my business is typically slow January through April or so. And so that was like a whole new source of revenue that I didn't have. Like I was pretty much dead January through April, and I planned my year, the rest of my year. That was when I took my time to do classes and stuff. But then all of a sudden, I had this income stream that I hadn't had before. So for someone who's doing photography part-time or wants to quit their 9 to 5 job or something like that, this gives them a whole new, revenue stream. It's a whole
So
new genre.
are there some marketing? I know you said you use social media.
Mhm.
I'm a big proponent of getting out of the house and, going away from the
Meeting
computer
people.
to all to also market. So are there some places, are there some things that you've done or other people have done to get to the tweens and the moms of the tweens to like how do you get bookings?
Well, I did contact some therapists, youth pastors. We have a little boutique in our town that specializes in kind of like clothes for teenagers and younger teens, and got them all on board. Orthodontists, I contacted them about what I do because I saw such a transformation in these girls. Their moms told me how much it had impacted them that I knew I wanted to do even more. So I started holding these big, huge events.
Ex-
And
Explain it. A big event.
yeah,
You
so we've done it several times here now on our flower farm where we had over 50 girls come and I took their photos. And so every one of them, I took their professional photos. We had speakers, so they broke up into little small groups and they rotated. And in each little group, I had one of my senior rep girls be the leader of the group. And they
hmm.
rotated and they went to one of the speakers group and learned about, for example, authentic friendships, how to make an authentic friendship, or being yourself, or recognizing what your emotions are instead of just lashing out at somebody. So those were the different little speaker groups. And then they would rotate over to me and I would take their photos. And then at the end, we would all come together and do an empowering art project, which was just incredible to listen to these girls after they did that about the head trash that they had heard from other people through bullying and stuff like that. And these little girls came over and like almost every one of them came over and hugged me. And one little girl, it was her at the last event, it was her 12th birthday that day. And she came over and she was crying and she said, "This was the best day of my life. I can't
Oh,
imagine doing
love it.
anything better on my birthday." So it has become such a big thing, this event, that the principal of our local elementary school contacted me a couple months ago and she said, "I'm trying to plan our spring carnival, but I know that empowerment event that you have has been so impactful that I don't want to do it the same weekend as you are. So when are you doing it?" And I hadn't even thought about it yet. Yeah, but I thought that was a really
Yeah.
cool thing.
So I want to reel it back to the practical.
Yep.
So you photographed these 50 girls. So are you selling wall art and books to each of the parents of those 50 girls, or is that a way that you book them for more full sessions? Like, where's the photography income part come in with that?
From the
And I
events.
love that. My favorite week every year growing up was summer camp. And
Aw.
because I felt empowered. It was church camp. My dad was a pastor
Right.
um and it was the only place I felt seen
I was just
and,
gonna say
and
scene. Yep.
empowered. And we they made a point of every kid feeling good and making that heart connection. So what you described kind of took me back to that.
Aw. You're
amazing
lucky to have
experience.
that
Yes, yes, because
for a week.
in the, and then I was a counselor and then I was a director of camps.
Oh,
Um,
to
because,
give back,
pardon?
to give
Give
back.
back. Yes. And of course I got so much more out of it. Um, but so hearing that just had me remember how special that was to feel special by these young adults that were the
Right,
counselors.
right.
And so I absolutely love, love, love that you shared that. And I wish I were still creating some things and I could create that, or we lived in the same town and I could participate. That's right up my alley.
Well,
So, but I want to know
yeah,
about the
the
money
the
part.
photography part. Yeah. So I did get, which I didn't mention, I did get sponsors for the event, and that was an orthodontist, the little boutique. Um, Realtor, somebody who donated some food. I had a bunch of different sponsors actually. And
Mhm,
so the girls got a whole lot of swag, some really important things like one year they got this necklace with the flower because it's all about
mhm,
blooming. Um, and one year it was a heart necklace from the boutique. And every time I presented them with swag, I told them like when you're at school and you're feeling like you're not enough, you just remember you can touch your heart necklace and you can remember everything you learned today. That those are just lies and this is what's important. So I did have sponsors to put on the event, so I didn't have to put that money into that. When I took the photographs, the moms had two options when they signed up. They could either receive a 5x7 that I choose, or they could come in for a custom slideshow and into my studio to come back another day for a custom slideshow with their girl and see all the images, and that they could choose that option if they thought they might want portraits or products, and I would say it was about 50-50, but I had 50 girls, so it ended up being very, very
lucrative.
lucrative, in my slow time. Um, Once I got through the event, then I would just have them kind of trickle back in to order. And many of them got wall portraits for their girls' bedroom or for their hallway or whatever. But some even got albums, and we put some
Mhm,
empowerment words in there. Um, and they've told me since that they see their girls opening back up the album to remember those. And those were just quick sessions that I did because imagine I had 50 of them, um,
mhm.
during our event. So that was also very, helpful business wise.
So smart.
And then the word spread and everybody was like, after the event, if they told a friend, the friend would call me and say, well, when is your next event? And I'm like, well, I'm not sure, but I do have these tween sessions that you can do, and it's one-on-one and it's so much better. You will love it. And so that word has just kind of spread from that.
Brilliant, brilliant. So is that really your main marketing? Um, well, you said you also have relationships like with an orthodontist, a
Mhm.
program that I tried to put this together, but it was the wrong orthodontist.
Wrong, wrong
Really
office.
wasn't all in, but I can't remember who used to put this idea out that kids that are getting their braces off, that is that age that has been ignored, like you're talking
Right.
about. So
And
kind
that's a milestone. Yeah.
creating a program with the orthodontist where when the child gets their braces off, they get a gift certificate for a session, and
Right.
that the orthodontist either he puts it on the wall or he has a book of smiles of
Right.
each of the
Right.
kids, and then converting that session possibly into a family session. But I love
Exactly.
that you
Yeah.
could really make it really just featuring the tween too. Um,
Right.
so is that something that you've done? Have you partnered
I
with?
have done that in the past, but honestly, it became so busy that I felt like I was doing so many of them. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very, very good way to begin this kind of thing because
Mhm.
if you don't know people with, kids that age, that was really, really good for me when I first started my business. The orthodontist he had a whole hall with, a five by
Mhm.
seven of each of the kids. And the kids loved to go in and see the pictures on the wall. But then when they came to choose their 5x7, I decided to gift a free family session. I don't mind some there, there's big discrepancy in the photography world, either free session or not free session. I don't mind giving a free session. It's just my time, because I know I can sell later.
Right.
And we talk about that, that if you want to have wall portrait for your home, then you can do this session. So it's kind of talked about beforehand. But that's one way to do that with the orthodontist. And then you just start meeting all kinds of families that way.
Right. Right. But I really am excited about your heart for actually having it still be about the child and not a quick portrait for the wall of the kid, but now let's get the whole family together. Um,
Right.
I absolutely love that. And I I think because body parts and it okay, I'm interrupting myself because what I want to say is I acknowledge, and imagine you can acknowledge that that is a harder age to photograph because their arms and legs are growing in different ways. They may have janky teeth that they may have the
Mhm.
braces and they don't really want to be smiling with braces, so they're
Right.
hesitant. Like I imagine you developed skills for photographing this age that is physically and emotionally awkward because
Yes.
the body is changing from a child to a teen slash adult.
And they don't know how to use that body yet
Right.
because it's
And
changing. Yes.
like I always make sure that the kids, especially this age, have long pants or a long flowing skirt because it can look like a pile of newborn colts if their skin is shown, there's all these gangly
Right.
arms and legs and things. So that's my little one tip for making it easier is not having too many of the body parts awkwardly
Right.
arranged.
Right.
Do you
And
have
I
a,
do have a PDF too that if your listeners would like, they can contact me for the free PDF about some tips on that, on how to photograph them and what to avoid, and what to do and what not to do,
okay.
which I think is very helpful for that age, because they are different than other genres, and it is a little bit of a learning curve, but very rewarding too.
Yeah. And at the end, I'm going to ask you about how to get that, but thank you for bringing that up. And I should remember to mention that at the beginning when someone has a free gift. Duh, head slap. All right. So I love it. I can imagine there are people all over the world because this has been listened to in 100 countries,
Wow.
getting inspired to do something. I love like doing something outside of the box that still uses our photography talents, but
Mhm.
also I think children and family portrait photographers, we're people. 90%
Right.
of us
Right.
do it because like I photographed a product in exchange once because I love their product. I sweat bullets over that. I did not enjoy photographing these bottles
There's
of
no
lotion.
personality there.
No, no. And so let's see, what's the moral of my story of bringing that up? So, uh, I think the idea that we can use our photography to also do additional like support for humans
Right.
and even create those experiences that are not simply the photography. I just love that because it all like marketing is harder now than it used to be
Right.
unless we
Right.
get a few really good ideas. Like
Well, and
that.
I think if we're genuine about it, then it
Yes.
doesn't come across as like a marketing boy. I so many years I kept all of my passions separate, like my kindness group and my empowerment workshops and my photography. And then just in the last couple of years, I'm like, wait a minute, they kind of all work together. The reason I got into photography, and I think many photographers do, is because they want to show people how beautiful they are. But then, I mean, let's face it, being a photographer gets kind of mundane sometimes because we're editing, we're scheduling sessions, and we're
Mhm.
behind the computer. This totally will reignite your passion for photography and bring it all back to like why I started in the first place.
I
Because
love
it totally transformed my business.
that. And I love the idea of thinking about what else you know, what else are you good at, what else
Mhm.
is your shining innate ability or interest, and finding a way that you can gift that to the world and also have that support your business. I don't think there's
Exactly.
anything wrong with saying, I'm going to start an empowerment program as a big part of my marketing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The
I think we hold back doing so I started incorporating my kindness stuff too in my business. And I think we always hear in these classes, well, you shouldn't give away free sessions or you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that. But if your heart is telling you to give away the free session fee for a reason, like on my birthday, I always do free sessions for anybody who's struggling with cancer or who has lost somebody through cancer. It's just how I want to spend my birthday. I know that's kind of weird, but that's a passion.
weird.
So I started that many years ago, and I've done that every year on my birthday. And then during like 2020, the graduating class was not going to have their prom or their graduation. And my heart just bleeds too much, I think. And
Mhm.
it was really bothering me because I kept thinking about this one high school senior who told me she had tried on 40 dresses for her prom dress. And I thought, oh my goodness, this poor girl's not even going to get to use her dress.
Oh,
So I photographed over 120 kids of the graduating class, and I told them that I would do their sessions for free and I would give them one free digital image too, just to let them celebrate whether they wanted to be in their prom dress or their cap and gown. And we met at a park, and I used my 7200, so I was far and I was safe. And I had them, they were crying. They hadn't done their hair and makeup in months because they were so depressed and they hadn't
mm,
seen their friends. And these kids were crying. They were so appreciative. What I hadn't thought of at the time was what an impact that would be on my bottom line for business because it was free.
mhm.
And I was doing it out of the genuine goodness of my heart. I mean, I didn't think about the marketing thing. I just was like, it was killing me that these kids weren't going to get to use their cap and gown or their prom dress. And what happened was moms felt so bad for their kids that they were ordering all the pictures that I took, not
Mm,
just the one freebie, but then they also posted all these incredibly nice comments about me on social media, which I hadn't planned at all. But
mhm.
it just took off like a wildfire because everybody was like, oh my gosh, that photographer was so kind to do that just because they felt bad. And these were not even clients of mine. I just put it out there into our community. And the next year, my senior business was like tripled because of it.
So going with your heart, you
Hmm.
actually created a marketing unintentionally.
Right, right.
And how big is your town?
We just moved to the country, to our flower farm recently, where we have like 10 acres, and we developed the flower farm for my sessions actually. But then we opened it up to the public, and it's a U pick where people come and pick their
Okay.
own flowers. But the town we moved from had 35,000 people.
Yeah. So especially, when people in a smaller town, they sometimes think, oh, the town's too small, it can't support a high-end profitable business. But I think it's easier to become known in the community when you
Hmm.
do things like this for the community with or without, I'm big
Right.
on donations uh, for charity
Auctions
auctions
and
and
stuff.
things like
Hmm.
that. And I wouldn't do 20 of them a year if it was only for, uh, the supporting the charities because
Right.
it's a lot of work.
It is.
And the people that go to charity auctions are not the people who are needing the support. They
Right.
usually are
Right. They're
more
the
affluent, but I'm happy to, like, if a particular charity is about like Children's Hospital
hmm
and they want to arrange some families who have kids with special needs or kids with at risk you know,
Or
terminal,
medical issues, right?
then I'm delighted to photograph those kids just and the families to support them because I've got the heart for that. You've got this huge heart and passion. And I love that you've allowed that not to be a separate thing, but to have it be a part of your business so that, like, where does the heart for people and the photography begin and end?
Yeah, it
What I'm
doesn't
getting with you
anymore.
is there's no dividing line. So
Well,
we
we
are
hear that, people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And I
right.
and I think when you're genuine like that and you give from your heart, then people trust you because it's genuine. You're being
Yes.
authentic.
Yes. So we are almost out of time. I wanted just a little brief explanation of your kindness movement.
Yeah. So I started that about 15 years ago, maybe something like that. And it all stemmed from me not having confidence for all those years and then having this epiphany. And I realized that there's so many people out there who don't don't feel their value, and there's people that are living on the streets, and all these different things that we can do to help people. But the bad of the world is louder than the good of the world because of news. And like, if you watch the news, you'd be convinced that that's all there is in the world, is people who want to do evil things, when actually, once I started this group, realized that people want to do good, they just don't really know where to begin. So Sparks of Kindness started, and it's all about not just keeping your eyes, ears, and hearts open for random acts of kindness, but also planned, deliberate ones, like planning out your week. You're going to the doctor's office, or you're going to go pick up the kids from school. Maybe you bring a hot chocolate, when it's 30 degrees out, for the crossing guard, or bring cookies to the doctor's office. So that's kind of how it all started. One little spark will spread like crazy, because it does something within your own heart when you give, but it also does it to the person, and then they tell their friends and their family, and then it's just kind of spread. And people usually print up these little cards and they put it on the spark. For example, they might leave bubbles on the playground or quarters at the laundromat, and they put these little cards on there and encourages them to join our Facebook group.
Oh,
It has been featured across the whole United States on the news, and especially during COVID, because people were
wow.
like looking for things to do, like, so it was on all, like, every major news channel. They'd call me from Michigan, like, can you be in the news tonight? Sure. Talk about kindness.
Wow. So you're kind of a big deal. Or
This
you're
world, but
following your heart. So I see you have a Facebook group called Sparks of Kindness. And yes,
Mhm.
there you are. Um,
And then we have Sparking Georgia, which is local because everybody wanted to do more. So, for example, every year we collect for the people living on the streets, for people affected by homelessness, and we just had it 2 weeks ago, a big drive where people just show up. People that want to make a difference, we call them sparklers, and we've collected for the last few months. And then this big day, we come to this big warehouse, and we might have 100 people show up, and we sort through all the donations, and then we pack bags, and then we just hit the streets of Atlanta. And the last few years, we have handed out over 600 bags to people on that day, and they were gone within like 20 minutes.
wow. Wow.
And
And
so
you've
we
got,
can make a difference. It just you just got to get up
yes.
and do it. I have a big mural painted on the side of our barn. It says "Love Louder."
Oh, you're amazing. How do and you have six kids. How
They're
did
grown now.
so when you had all those kids around, were you able to do some of these things, or do you think having that
No,
family?
I just had my studio with employees, and then once they were gone, I'm like, oh, I have more time and energy. I can
Yeah.
focus on these other things.
Okay. So if someone's like, "Oh, I can't possibly do that. I've got all these kids," you're like, "Your time will come. There'll be a
Exactly.
place
Yeah.
where you you have
Actually,
space to
kids
fill.
love to do that kind of thing. We have so many moms who jump in and do sparks with their kids. Like, for example, writing encouraging notes on cards and leaving them at the grocery store or on sidewalks, or
Mhm.
they take quarters and leave them at the fountain, make a wish, or
Love it.
leave bubbles at the playground. So
Yeah.
kids love that kind of thing. And it's teaching them really young, that we we got to love ourselves and then we can go out and love the world. And so that's kind
Mhm.
of what I'm doing with the tweens, but it's also with the younger sparklers. So,
And what I love, this is what I imagine in your life, is the photography is profitable enough that then you can do other things
mhm.
for not money that are
Right.
serving the world. Our photography is serving
Exactly.
the world, absolutely. And one of the reasons I think to be profitable is so that you have the time and the resources and the
Hmm.
energy to be time for dollar profitable. So we're
Right.
not just
Right.
cranking out 60 hours a week of work,
Right.
is having the space to listen to our heart's calling and do other good stuff in the world. And we can because, yeah, I think I said it, because then we
Because
can
it is,
afford it.
yeah, because right, my business is profitable. It kind of, but now that I've combined all these passions, like if you want to give back to the world, maybe sit down and journal about how you can do that with your gift of photography. Maybe it's something completely different. Maybe
Yeah,
you have a passion for um, dogs, rescue dogs. Use that passion for good in the world, and then it all comes back to you
right.
financially too.
Yeah, yeah. I know I saw a program once of someone who has a heart for veterans and did a whole program photographing uh,
Uh,
World War II veterans. This goes back, it was probably 20 years ago. Beautiful black and whites, listening to their stories and
wow,
things.
that is so
And
cool.
it got national. And of course, the portrait business was supported, but they weren't doing that for that. So
Right, right.
I love that. And even like one of the things I'm the most proud of is I worked with San Diego County Adoption and
Mhm.
helped a couple of years. We did a calendar, and each of the kids got homes from the first year, and
Ah,
all of them except this one sibling group where the kids were all very challenging. So I wasn't surprised
right,
at,
right.
at that point. Um, and what happened was, out of the blue, I get contacted by what turns out to be my best client that was celebrity, the wife of a celebrity. They used me for 8 years, probably 20
Wow.
sessions over those 8 years or more. And I feel like it was a direct uh,
Result of
universe
listening to your heart.
acknowledging gratitude. Uh, she didn't find me from that, nothing to do with
Right.
that. But I think that there's something
Karma.
in
Good
the
karma.
world that loves an act of service, and
Yeah.
but we don't do it for that, or it's not coming from,
Right.
like I'm going to do this so that I
Right,
get more of
exactly.
this.
Yep.
But
It's
anyway,
just when you listen to your heart. I used to do a calendar as well for the our local American Cancer Society, and we did a beautiful baby contest and then had a baby for every month of the year, and it would raise money.
yeah,
People would vote. But some of my best clients all came from that, and it wasn't why I did it. I never thought about it at the time, but I think people see that you're doing good and they're like, she must be a good person. I want to go
right, right,
work with her.
yes. I love this discussion with you. Thank you so, so much.
Oh,
So I've
you're
got
welcome.
so I've got two quick questions.
Yes.
So tell me about the gift that you've created and how people can get that.
Maybe we could put a link in the show notes where they can contact me. It's a PDF on how to photograph the tweens, what to do and what to avoid.
Okay. So what I have in your
I
notes
think a
is,
lot of people might get scared to work with kids at that age, and so this will kind of give them a few tips on. It's just a little tweaking.
okay. So going to cedarhillstudios.com/contact. So they'll just contact you and say,
Yes.
Please send me the 3 things to avoid when photographing teens PDF.
Yes,
Or,
exactly. And it's
or
Cedar Hill Studios with an S because now I've incorporated all of my goodness into one space.
awesome. Okay, so the last thing is just your parting thought that people can take away and ponder in their heart. So, what do you got for us?
Well, I would say that each one of us is gifted certain certain talents, of course, that we see. We're a photographer, and so we know that we're gifted that talent, but also we're gifted certain things that touch our heart, like we talked about. Things that we feel empathy towards. And I think if you just spend some time, like just kind of quieting your heart, and we spend so much time worrying about the business part of it, but maybe the heart part of it too.
Hmm.
Spend a little time on like what really really tugs on your heart, what makes you want to jump off the sofa and go do something about it and change the world. And ask yourself, how can I use this photography gift that I have to help change the world in that way?
Oh, just absolutely love that. So, thank you so much.
Oh,
Remember,
you're
everybody, to
welcome.
stay tuned for my quick wrap up. And Debbie, thank you so much for saying yes. And just talking to you has just warmed my heart. So,
Oh, well, I love chatting with you. Thank you for having me.
you're welcome. Well, hello, I'm back. I know you didn't miss me because it was a nanosecond. Let's see. Remember to go to lucydumascoaching.com, Lucy with an I, if you want to find out what it's like to have a coach or me as a coach. Feel free to just book a 20-minute call, and there's no pressure, no obligation. The people that are right for me and I'm right for them, we seem to find each other. But if you're wondering, maybe I'm supposed to find her, please get in touch. And I love to support people, uh, regardless of whether we work together. So if you got questions or needs, give me a holler. LucyDumasCoaching.com and click the button to get in touch. Okay, let's see. So, wasn't she amazing? Miss Debbie McFarland. Um, that heart for giving, I love how it just layers and layers and helps her business thrive when she's doing things from her heart. So think about that. What are other things in my life that I love that I could incorporate or I could do in a way to become connected to a community of people that might be great clients? Or think about how you might have a passion for serving those tweens. I think if I was ready to start a new niche in photography, I would definitely consider that, because it's an unserved market and it can really change the world. Because those from 10 to, I think, like 13 or 14, the body's changing, the mind is changing, the social world is getting weird. And so having the ability to help kids navigate those, feel better about themselves, I just love that. So, some of the things she did to market were just sending out emails and social media posts about tweens. And also, she makes connections with therapists, youth pastors, orthodontists, other other people that serve the community. And she creates an event. And from that event, it not coincidentally, but it supports her business. Well, it also supports her desire to share and support kids in that age group. So, um, I think that's all I have to say for now is, just let yourself be inspired by everything that she said. That is my recommendation. And be sure to get in touch with her at cedarhillstudios.com/contact to get the free gift about things to avoid when you're photographing tweens. And if you were at Imaging Expo this year, keep an eye out for me. Say hello. Let me know that you're listening. I love to know who's listening. And that's it for now. Bye.